اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Out of Sight, a live podcast show aiming to raise awareness about disabilities and special needs. We explore areas of inclusion and accessibility within our communities. On today's episode, I'm your host, Sarah Hamza, and with me is a very special guest, Brother Murtada Dooji. Brother Murtada Dooji is not only a Quran madrasa teacher, an author, and a wheelchair table tennis player. And today he's going to talk to us about his diagnosis of spastic paraplegia and his journey throughout life. So, Assalamu alaikum, Brother Murtada. It's lovely to have you onto the show. And why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Alaikum salam. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Firstly, I want to start with a verse from the Holy Quran, which resonates with me during one of the most challenging times of my existence. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. On no soul will Allah place a burden greater than it can bear. Now, as I was turning 14, I was staying in Mombasa, so when I went to Nairobi, I had an unexpected plan because I met a surgeon, doctor. And with that, I was expecting a good response, but I was told to do an MRI scan. At that time, I was only 14, and with the MRI scan, it was so scary. It was like going to an open grave when all that. But then, Alhamdulillah, I finished that, and I got my, I was told I had spastic paraplegia with essential tremor. At that moment, I was confused. I was thrust into the fear and uncertainty. What next? Because I was such a happy-go-lucky boy that I didn't want anything other to, because I knew that it will affect my mobility. And as soon as I found out I had to use a walking stick, the first question I asked my mom is, I need a different color because I want to be unique.
Yeah.
And my mom got me a few colors, but then next I went to Mombasa, and my life was peaceful at the school because I was loving meeting all my friends, and I love every because whatever caste they are, I'm so into friends. Like in my schooling life, I was really into studying and going through And then I was a really good sports person, meaning I loved swimming and playing golf. And also I was following my tennis player, Pete Sampras,
Yeah.
because I used to play tennis a lot, like at Jaffe Sports Club.
Nice.
And that really helped me meeting different people and enjoying all the stuff. And then once that in Mombasa with schooling, next thing I used to love going to madrasa because madrasa is not like UK because it starts every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. It's half an hour before namaz time.
Wow.
So then you can, because I was so into, because at that I was really wanted to be on time. I was really important of time, wherever I go. And that was good in a way because madrasa either I had dinyat, Quran or akhlaq. And I loved all that. But as, and if I remember correctly, my mom is from Lamu, so I made sure we went on break just for like long weekend to Lamu, and it was a lovely place.
Yeah.
And it was completely different. It was it looked so nice, and going through the sea, and because you go by plane and you go in the boat to the
Wow.
center, and it's a lovely place.
Wow, I can imagine, yeah.
Then when I was getting close to my after that, I was part of a SW. I was a member of the SWS, meaning Student Welfare Section of the Jamaat, and I used to be in charge. I was helping, like, either with all the different, like, either all the boys go for swimming class, so and just for activities like Muslim activities, like here it's like Salmo Jaffries, they call it.
Yeah.
And it was so good. And after that, I remember I had my O levels, and I had a different ability with my writing. Alhamdulillah, I was allowed to get a scribe.
Alhamdulillah.
At that time, I didn't understand what scribe meant. And it was so difficult because I had to talk what I wanted to write in my exam, especially for my O and A level, even though I got an hour more. But to talk is such a difference. But Alhamdulillah, it was a challenge, but it dampened my. I was really happy and content about that. Then after that, I loved my Quran madrasa teacher, and he said, when you go to UK, I give you 3 points of advice. Firstly, always, if you are a teacher, but if you are a teacher, make sure you are on time. Secondly, know your student names. And thirdly, as always have a smile on your face, because that's the Prophet's hadith.
Yeah. It's the Prophet's sunnah, isn't it?
Yes. Then I thought about it, but I said, inshallah, once I reach the UK, because I'm still young.
Yeah.
And then I was not invited, like I was invited for a spiritual journey, and it was when I went for ihtikaf. And this time it was obviously in the mosque, and this time it was December 30th to 2nd January. And so it was my listening to different speeches and speeches and different activities, which give me really clues that, alhamdulillah, I can achieve something more.
Alhamdulillah, yeah.
Especially then, and not realizing it was the new year coming, because I was in a mosque and it felt really nice to be part of the community.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's was it the first time you do i'tikaf? We don't really do i'tikaf here in London, do we?
No. I've not heard of it.
And you were telling me, I remember before the show, that i'tikaf for you, the time that you did i'tikaf, that point in your life, it was life-changing, wasn't it?
Yes.
Because you were able to connect with other people on a spiritual basis, and you were able to kind of come to terms with how you were feeling and set mindset to the future.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And then...
And on top of that, as I was a SWS person, I was in charge of the Alaman Magazine. And that was around February 2000. And I had to complete it by April 2000. And in that year, we had the father of the World Federation passed away. And that's when I remember I had written the whole life story, and that really touched me, that alhamdulillah I've got this, even though I'm not, I saw him in the past, but it really touched my heart.
Yeah.
And after that, even though I was living in Mombasa, it felt like heaven, because then I had to move to UK.
Yeah.
And then my journey will continue.
The UK is nothing like Mombasa, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen Mombasa in pictures and it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Let alone the community you described just now, about how you were, an integral member of that community, and the support that you had throughout that community. In the madrasa, you went madrasa practically 5 days a week, which is nothing like we have here. But then in 2002, you moved to Britain, to the UK. Could you tell us more about what happened then after you moved? So you had the diagnosis, sorry, just to retrace a little bit of our steps. You had the diagnosis from Kenya, from Mombasa, or Nairobi, you said.
Yep.
And then in 2002, a few years later after that, you came to Britain.
Yep. I came in 2001 for my university. And alhamdulillah, I got a place in the University of Westminster. Alhamdulillah, the first day I reached, obviously, once my parents left me, it was sad, but I promised them once I will do something. And I was just thinking that as I started university, I got into walking to the station and remembering Mombasa, because Mombasa, at least I know the driver would drop me to the place, and walking to the station, especially in winter, because I have not experienced winter like anywhere else, because Mombasa is so hot and nice. And then alhamdulillah, then my university, so I managed, because in the past I've never sat on the tube. So that was a really good thing. And my parents brought me up because I used to wake up really early to pray subuh, and then so I made sure I reached my class on time, and not realizing I had my university in 4 different campuses.
Yeah.
Either it was in the
The University of Westminster, you've got Baker Street.
Baker Street.
Yeah.
There is also
Yeah. Oxford Street.
Euston
Oh,
Square.
Euston Square, yeah.
Yeah, and then there was the Great Portland Street.
Great. They're so far away from each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
And at least Euston Square and Great Portland Street were close to each other.
Yeah.
But at least walking to the university and seeing different people from different and that really made me feel happy. That even though I was with one stick, but everyone was in a really good, happy, and I was really pleased with that.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone in London, you know, it's so nice that you had that mindset and that mentality. When I walk in Baker Street, I always say, why is everyone so gloomy? Maybe it's the weather. But it's really nice that you had the mindset of like, even though you were at the time walking with a walking aid, what colour was your walking aid eventually? Because you told us that you got it different colours.
Blue.
You had a
I had a
blue.
blue one.
Yeah. So you probably stood out just generally. It's nice that you had that mindset, and it's quite inspiring to know that you came to Britain technically alone, right? Your parents, you know, they left you, they brought you here, and they went back to Kenya, and you were here with your disability and your walking aid, but you were still walking between campuses, and then alhamdulillah you eventually went through university. What happened after that?
Before that, in university, I fell in love with the cars.
With cars?
Yeah, because I loved the Mini Cooper, and I thought inshallah one day I'll get one. So but then next birthday I got one. So alhamdulillah,
Alhamdulillah.
Took me from place to place.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. So why don't you tell us about how your condition ended up kind of progressing, and you went from a walking aid to a wheelchair, and what the doctors told you? Because I know we spoke a little bit about that a little bit while ago. Yeah.
Yep. Before I got that, because when my second year of university, I was volunteering in Scope, and Scope is a place for different able people, and that really caught my eye, and everyone had a different ability, and either some with half your even no legs, nothing. But all of them are content. And that really made me feel happy.
Alhamdulillah.
And especially then. And then when I was finishing that 9 months, I was invited for a photo competition. I remember it was in Ramadan the next year, and it was 400 people, and everyone had, there was a photo taken, and the best one was chosen.
Yeah.
And Alhamdulillah, my photo was selected.
Wow,
So I didn't know
mashallah.
what was happening.
Yeah.
The week later, I reached home. One of my aunts, who's a lecturer, she called me and she said, I saw your photo on the station. I said, which
Wow.
photo? I didn't understand anything. Then I heard that week was the disabled week in the UK.
Yeah.
That was December 2003.
December 2003, yeah.
And I felt like a celebrity then.
Yeah, I think you've been a celebrity since
I
then.
know. Because everyone at the tube station asking me
Yeah,
what happened, and
Yeah.
I've seen the photo everywhere. It went buses
Wow.
and then
mashallah. So you've had quite a journey.
yeah.
You've been
Yeah.
published for quite a few different things, right?
And next time, because I was part of my own, because of my different ability, I made sure I went to the gym. And I keep on, till today, I keep on either swimming or going to the gym on a weekly basis.
Mashallah. Yeah.
So at least that keeps me fit and
Yeah, yeah. So you exercise very regularly.
Yeah.
And I know in your book you mentioned how, was it that you used to play golf, swimming, used to be a sportsman essentially.
Yeah.
So you still have that connection with sports
Yep.
till today.
Yep.
Yeah, and you play table tennis, don't you now?
Yeah.
How's that?
Alhamdulillah, that's
Yeah.
what because now playing in a wheelchair is completely different, but
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, it's getting there.
Alhamdulillah. I'm sure you're still famous in that aspect as well.
Yeah, hopefully.
Inshallah, inshallah. So why don't you talk to us about after university? You're now an integral part of the Hujjat community, aren't you?
Yes.
And you authored your 2 books. So tell us more about that and your journey throughout since 2003 till now.
Yeah. I met a friend, his name Zain Panjwani. He is also bad, but because he was giving me exercises, movements, and he just told me that he just informed me that you need to write something about your life. And I said, I've been writing for my parents daily. It can be like 2 pages of what I do from morning till evening and who I meet and the whole life. So it is easy for me. Then I didn't know what happened. All the pain and things. The next year and the next week, I thought it was the next Ramadan, and I heard in the mosque, because I love coming to mosque and meeting different people. And I heard the mosque in Ramadan looking for, what do you call it, looking for help for the people like
Like volunteers?
in the month of Ramadan,
Yeah.
they're looking for payment money to give the orphans
Oh
and
yes, yeah, charity.
charities,
Yeah.
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 And I thought, what can I give? Because I need to be part of this. And Alhamdulillah, my book was coming, my first book. I've never written a book in my life. I remember my small book I wrote in Mombasa. I thought, let's hope that, because I remember the name Ability Through a Disability, Part 1. So I said, I don't know where to go. Then it was published on Eid, on first Eid, Eid, and I launched it at the Stanmore Mosque.
Yeah.
It was my I had ordered. It was. I got a shock when I have found out that I finished my first batch.
Wow, you was
In
out of
a
stock.
week, I
Yeah.
was completely out of
Yeah.
stock.
Just to tell the viewers that we've just put up the books on the screen so they know which books we're talking about.
Yeah.
They're on the screen at the moment.
Yeah.
Your Ability Through Disability Part 1 and Part 2. But yeah, so that Ramadan, you sold out
Yeah, completely.
completely.
And then, Alhamdulillah, I got it for people outside of UK. I sent some by email, and Alhamdulillah, I reached about 1,000
MashaAllah.
copies.
MashaAllah.
It felt so nice to.
Yeah. I can imagine you
Just
felt, yeah.
because I was not talking that much in Mombasa, I didn't know where I got the energy to write
Yeah.
and to feel. It was lovely.
Yeah, I can imagine, to get your book published, to get it written, to share that part of your life that maybe not a lot of people know much about, because you mentioned in Mombasa you were still so, happy, and even now in Britain you have a really, really, really positive mindset that so many people can kind of learn from.
Yeah.
And I know that from your book you mentioned a lot of your positive mindset stems from your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and your relationship with Islam and the community. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, not because the way my parents brought me up, because in Mombasa, going to mosque, and I would be part of either taking, wherever I go with my parents, I would go with them, and I would follow, like going to mosque or Kabristan or wherever we go, we must, and just being brought up with namaz on time, and just that my mom and dad, alhamdulillah, brought me up, and alhamdulillah, I pray they're helpful.
Alhamdulillah, yeah. I can imagine your family are an integral part to who you are,
Yes,
and
yeah.
who you've become throughout your
Definitely.
journey. And you speak a lot about them as your support network,
Yeah.
and their push and their encouragement in your books, when I read them, about their encouragement for you to still be a part of our community here in Britain,
Yeah.
and to kind of carry on steadfast in
Yeah.
terms of religion and Quran. And you still, till today, you're a Quran teacher in the
Yeah.
madrasa. So when did you decide to take up teaching in the
Okay.
madrasa?
I took my grandmother to Sham.
Oh, wow.
And from then, I got the vibe that I've become need to pass the message on from Bibi Zainab. And that's the time I thought I need to start teaching. And even though I can't talk Tanwan, but Alhamdulillah, that will come. But then when I started after my trip with my grandmother to Sham, and I became a teacher of the madrasa from 2002. And Alhamdulillah, I keep active with Sunday.
Yeah. I guess that's really important to you and your journey in terms of when you went to Sham, when you visited Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam, which, you know, not a lot of people have the privilege to do so, especially in this day and age, in this time in the world. Not a lot of people get to go to Syria and visit Sayyidah Zainab. So it must have been, you know, life-changing, especially that you decided to come back and join madrasa and join teaching. So why don't you tell us about how it is now, you know, about 20 years on from your original diagnosis? I know that we spoke a little bit about how people with spastic paraplegia don't usually have a good prognosis, right? And you're fighting all odds, and you're fit, and you're, you know, able to come here on the show and speak to us and share your message. Could you tell us a little bit more about how it is now?
Okay. Coming to that, there's one thing. One thing that really caught me, and when I finished my writing my first 18 years in my first book, I was really advised to write another book. And that book, because after writing a first book, it became so much easier. So I finished this next book.
Yeah.
I tried to finish it, but not realizing I was invited to Karbala. And then in Karbala, I met the Naqvi brothers. And with their help, I went to Agha Shistani with my second book. And he signed the book, and that really helped, gave me a more thing to talk about, because getting a book signed by Agha Shistani made me feel so happy. And really contented.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. I'm sure, you know, being able to go to Karbala and to go ziyarah, and then not only that, but also get your book signed by somebody you look up to and somebody we learn a lot of, you know, knowledge, wisdom from, must have been very, very kind of important to you. And like you said, it was something that would bring you contentment. Throughout your journey in ziyarah, how was that with kind of your disability and so on?
Disability, because I've been around the world, you can say.
Yeah.
I've been to Mombasa.
Yeah.
And compared with Stanmore and going to Sham, Sham and Karbala, it was complete. Karbala was so disabled friendly.
Really?
I was so happy that I can go straight to the Zari of Imam Hussein, Hazrat Abbas, and really hit my...
Wow, that's such a positive experience.
I love it.
Yeah, do you go often ziyarah?
I've been twice to Karbala.
MashaAllah.
But Umrah, when I got my diagnosis, my mom And with my mom and dad, I used to go to Umrah every year
Wow.
for maybe
MashaAllah.
14 years. And even the people that there in Medina and Makkah remembered me.
Wow,
Yes,
mashallah.
yes.
Must have left an
Yeah,
impression,
no.
yeah. And were you, when you were visiting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's house in Mecca, were you on a wheelchair?
Yes, yes, I was on a wheelchair once, but once I was walking.
Walking, yeah.
But
How was that experience?
when you in with Imam in Karbala or Umrah, just being part of the place, it's such a completely happy moment. And
Yeah. It's quite inspiring, and I think a lot of people, don't have the privilege to go, and
yeah.
it really is. It sounds really lovely, and it sounds great that you had such a positive experience and it was
Yes,
disabled friendly.
because even though I have taken 5 modes of transport, I was walking, then one stick, and then obviously a different color, then I got
Yeah.
crutches.
Yeah,
And from crutches, I was driving
yeah,
my Mini Cooper, and then now I've stopped driving just for health reasons.
yeah,
But now I've got a mobility scooter, which takes me wherever I want to go.
yeah. And I'm assuming that your Motability scooter is something that keeps you quite independent in a way?
Yes.
Yeah? Could you tell us more about kind of how that is?
Yeah, because now, since Mombasa, I've been brainwashed that because I'm an early bird from Mombasa, even when I go out with my friends, I must be back. What was the question?
I was just asking about your Independency, essentially. Yeah,
scooter,
yeah,
Each now from Monday, I go straight to work
yeah,
in the morning, and then obviously because now I pray at mosque at work, and then I come back, and with my scooter, I can I finished my month's shopping if necessary, or even then I can go to the gym
yeah.
with my scooter. And Alhamdulillah, Monday till Friday, that's my up and down. But
Yeah.
then, Alhamdulillah, then Saturday morning is normally table tennis. And evening, if there's something at mosque, go to mosque. Otherwise, I forgot to say on Thursday, I make sure go to Kabristan for Majlis every Thursday.
MashaAllah, yeah.
And the evening mosque. And Friday, go to Jummah. And then I'll come back home, then go to the gym.
Yeah.
And Saturday, table tennis, and Sunday, madrasa. So that's my week.
That's that's a really good routine. I think you're more active than myself at this point. So you go to the gym quite regularly.
Yeah.
And how do you find it in the gym? Like, what kind of exercises do you do? You're on the mobility scooter, aren't you?
Yes, because I try to stand up and sit down like different exercises. Because my trainer, who is with me since I came to the country, so
Yeah,
I
wow.
know him
Yeah.
since, and And it's so much easier from them with him. I go swimming with him once a week. And Alhamdulillah, he when talking, is like talking to elder brother, it's
Yeah.
just
That's nice.
helpful, yeah.
That's nice that you've kind of formulated that relationship.
Yep.
Yeah. And you spoke about throughout the week, like Thursday, Friday, even Jum'ah, and then Sunday madrasa, or even if there's an event in the mosque. You
Yeah.
go quite regularly to the mosque.
Yes,
And
yes.
you're very big in the community, aren't you?
I hope so, but because in the, if you think that in the other months, the subuh time is so early, and I make sure I go with my family every weekend in the morning for Fajr either at
Wow.
6. And that brought me up till today.
Wow, mashallah. That's quite structure, isn't it? It's quite discipline.
Yes.
Yeah, not a lot of people have that kind of discipline.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see. It's nice to see, and I'm sure it gives you kind of that independency as well, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It helps with the mindset and the mentality.
definitely.
So your experience in the community can be very, very unique, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you'll probably see the community from a perspective that maybe I don't see, or other people, or able-bodied don't see,
Yeah.
because your community is something that you're very, very a part of,
Yeah.
and it's part of your support network, and you turn to the community for, faith, for enjoyment, for support, for friendship, and for family.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit more about your involvement with the community, and how your disability plays a role in that?
Going back to that, when I finished my books,
Yeah.
because I wasn't talking that much in the brought up, first I was invited in Mombasa for a talk for the senior citizens on a Friday. And my intention was that I'll get a charity for Yemen. And it so happened that I got, alhamdulillah, I got enough, but just the people's faces to see me talking, it felt such a nice experience. And then not realizing after 2 weeks,
Yeah.
I had an interview with the Africa Federation, who came to Mombasa to talk about my books. And it was amazing. And I felt like a complete celebrity there.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm sure you're famous everywhere now. And it's so nice to hear that you enjoy telling your story.
Yep.
And you enjoy teaching people
Yep.
about your condition and about how it's like living with a disability in an independent manner. And that's probably something we don't hear much about, because disability is still taboo in our community. You know, stereotypically, people with disabilities don't go out, they don't, they don't come to mosque as often as we probably would like to encourage them to do so. And obviously you've broken that stereotype and that barrier. I'm sure you've broken a lot of other stereotypes with all of your traveling and your talks and so on, and your work.
But what I want to mention is during the COVID break, I was so upset because obviously I couldn't come out of my house.
Yeah.
And it was then I realized I took my son for a walk down the road just to get fresh air.
Yeah.
Because I personally could not sit
Yeah.
in one position all the time.
Yeah. Can imagine the pandemic was very difficult.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And there was less mosque, right? In the
Yes,
pandemic.
there was no mosque completely, and
Yeah.
then just having a mosque at your home,
Yeah.
you feel like you're home.
Yeah.
Doing that, and then I remember I was invited for 3 interviews on either Ahlulbayt, Imam Hussein TV, and they were really good interviews. Then they could see my condition from a closer look.
Yep.
And I had so many different interviews, and I felt like
You're famous.
more than famous. I don't know what the world's coming to.
Yeah, everyone's asking about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that's something that is important to you, right? Now you
Yeah.
go to mosque, most people know you at mosque,
Yes,
don't they?
yes.
And they say salam and they include you.
Yeah.
And going back to a question that I asked you a bit earlier was the role of the community with your disability. And obviously your perspective is very unique because of
Yeah.
your positive mindset, yeah.
Yep. Well, in Mombasa, at first, because apart from me, I don't think I've even seen someone who has a different challenge like mine. So even the mosques, when they were making it, I thought that make sure I have enough place to go up in.
Oh, wow.
Yes, so Alhamdulillah, it's coming better now.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
Well, that's such an an amazing point that you raised just there about how when they were remodeling the mosque in
Yes,
Mombasa,
yes, yeah.
they remodeled it with your, including you with your
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
perspective, because some mosques you would say here in the UK and the Samu Hujjat, the Khaja community, they do it a little bit better than other communities like the Iraqis, the Iranians, the Lebanese,
Yeah.
where some of our mosques can be inaccessible, ramp free, without ramp access, and
Yeah.
that's unfortunate, isn't it?
Yes, because I went with my family to South the other day,
Yeah.
and the new mosque in Essex is amazing.
Yeah.
I went there and it was mind-blowing because
Really?
it was completely disabled friendly, and
Wow.
something like that would be like I'm hoping that it comes to stand more and the new property comes up,
Yeah,
inshallah, soon.
Inshallah, because I can imagine that it makes such a big difference to
Yes.
your experience of faith.
Definitely.
Yeah. Could you tell us more about how the mosque, the one in Essex there, you said obviously shout out to the mosque in Essex, how they've made it disabled friendly in a way that you really appreciate?
Because even going up the ramp into the building, even there were lifts going up, and even going to the bathroom, the whole thing, like the water comes out to wash your hands and all.
Oh,
And
wow.
also it just felt like mind-blowing.
Oh, you felt really included.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. That's really important, right? Being included into the community.
Definitely.
And it's something that we like to talk about a lot on the show, because what do you think in your perspective, because your perspective is unique, because you understand the needs of, or certain needs of, the disability community or the special needs community, that maybe somebody who's able-bodied or not experienced that or not been in those shoes really understands or really appreciates. And sometimes it's the ignorance of the committee of the mosque, the elders and the seniors and the people in charge. Sometimes their ignorance can make them forget that there's certain needs of our community. So what would you say would be like the ideal mosque or the ideal community in for somebody who's requires accessibility in your case?
Before I answer that question,
Yeah.
I remembered when I used to drive to mosque,
Yeah.
going to the mosque in Stanmore for my classes was like really difficult going up the stairs or anything like that. And now, alhamdulillah, they've got a new madrasa not far from me. So I can just drive in and out, and there's a lift that goes up and out, and all the staff in the madrasa know me. And Alhamdulillah, it feels so, and since Mombasa, the Quran teacher told me, make sure you're on time. So I
Yeah.
make sure I'm on time,
Yeah.
and Alhamdulillah, it's an
Alhamdulillah.
experience. But now, the topic of mosque now, I'm hoping the new property that's coming up will have proper access.
Inshallah, inshallah. And people like you who speak to seniors and,
Yeah.
the people in charge in the mosque, your voice is something that needs or requires that kind of representation for a lot of other people that may not have that voice in the community because maybe they're not, always there, or maybe they feel discouraged to come and not included. But it's really lovely to hear that you feel, really included, and you feel like there are lots of positive changes happening already. So,
Yes.
and something that we sometimes forget to kind of give the mosques a shout out, because obviously we're always looking for more and more and more. But what so far from your experience since 2002,
Yes.
there has been progress,
Yes, yes.
and inshallah we're going forward
Inshallah.
on better progress.
Inshallah.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of the way that you see inclusion getting better from this point onwards,
Okay. From this point onwards, now this is a very difficult question because I'm thinking now.
You're probably thinking everything is perfect
Yeah,
already.
no, exactly. I feel like I've done my bit there.
Yeah.
I need to, because even someone else told me, I need to look into looking at the up, like the getting known, like up,
Yeah.
like up, meaning even going up different to like your story, but on an upper level.
Sharing your story,
Yes.
sharing your story to more people, to greater audiences.
Yeah.
So people kind of like appreciate,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
are inspired. And like I mentioned earlier, I think just sharing your story with so many people will inspire not only the people that are just listening, on their TVs, and the people on our show today who are viewers, but also inspire the parents of children that may be worried or stressed or anxious about the future of their children who have a disability or special needs, and individuals themselves that are maybe not as privileged to say that they are out there and they're outgoing, and
Yes.
not everyone is as outgoing as yourself.
But that reminded me when the 2001 came, I was invited for a talk in a school, in Dr. Chandler's school in Amersham, and it was one of my first time to give a talk to more than 400 students.
Yeah.
And just giving my talk about my book and stuff, I had so many questions.
Yeah.
And I was really up. It just got back to me that I need to do something more.
Yeah.
The same school invited me a second year for the
Wow.
same topic.
Yeah.
And I was so impressed.
Yeah.
And just to get my message out.
Yeah, of course. And it just shows that the fact that so many people and so many of these students of these schools have questions for you, it just shows how much knowledge there is to fill in
Yes.
the gaps for the future generation, which is really important because they are the future, and they are the people who are going to be taking kind of inclusion and accessibility on with them towards, society and community. Unfortunately, we are coming to the end of the show. I know the time has gone so quickly, but I did want to kind of reserve a few minutes at the end for you to share kind of your last pieces of golden nugget advice to parents, to individuals, to the community, anything you'd like to share, kind of parting them with your advice, inshallah.
I would say have faith in yourself, and you can get family or whatever, but if you are confident enough, you need to pass your message. And I was informed that any feel you feel down, or even me, I used to feel down. The thing is, recite the that dua of what do you call the recite the recite Quran, and you'll feel better. And I personally was watching Marhum Mullah Askar's short clip, and it just made me feel so much better.
Yeah. And that's obviously inspired you
Yes.
today. And it's really inspiring for us to hear as well how your relationship with the Quran and the du'as that read you kind of are pivotal for you in your darkest moments. And everyone goes through dark moments, but it's about how you come through them and how you have that perspective and that mentality. And something that I think I will take personally from this kind of show today is your mindset and your positive mindset, and how positive you are in terms of your outlook with life and the progress we're doing as a community, and inshallah onto bigger and better and more accessible and more inclusive communities, inshallah. So thank you very much, Brother Murtada, for coming onto the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we've learned so much from your story. It's been super inspiring, and I'm very grateful to have you here today. Inshallah, you're able to kind of go on to bigger platforms and share your story with more people and bigger audiences, because I think it's definitely something that the world should hear. And your journey is something that's loads of lessons could be learnt from it. So thank you very much. And I just want to thank the viewers again for tuning in, and inshallah we'll see you next week on another episode of Out of Sight. Thank you very much, and ma'as-salama.
You are a person in love, and all you are doing is seeking your beloved. Beneath everything, beneath the routines and habits that we have, all of us